All right, today here, Cliff here, back with Idea Machine Tool. Today we are finally buttoning up the work on the M818 5-ton semi. Now, when I bought the machine, when I bought the truck, it didn't have a weird sound to it, and it had like a weird popping noise to it. Sorry about the sunlight, but it's kind of dull in here. But so, anyways, when I bought it, it had a weird popping sound on number 4 and number 5 cylinder. That was kind of weird sounding because I've never had a small cam or a big cam Cummins have that sound before, so I was questioning on that. So I called Cummins. I got a book. The book here is it's not a very big book. As you can see, it's only about 1.5 inches thick. It covers the NHC series, which is the nhc250 small cam. I did get a big cam book on the big cam 3, 4, 5 engines. Since I was down in Cummins, I figured why not, because I've got a couple guys that have the big cams that they need some work on. So I went, well, I'll just get both books. It only costs $160 for both of them. So I brought the truck in, got it in here in the shop. I finally popped the valves covers off and going through everything, barring the engine over by hand. I kept having an issue on timing the engine because I was using the information as the dial indicator method instead of the torque method. So once I read the book a couple times, finally I figured out that on the torque method, and it tells you step by step on the torque method, you're supposed to follow on the VS or A, or the VS, well, it's A position or 1-6 VS. So you bar the engine over to that, you're either going to find 1 or 6, which if you look at it and you bar it over a couple times to find number 1, you can find number 1 top dead, and then you sit there and adjust the injector first, then the valves. Intake is 14 thousandths and the exhaust is 27 thousandths. The injector, you got to screw down all the way till you can't screw it down anymore by hand. And you put 15 degrees more on top of that, and then you back it off. I usually backed it off about a full turn, and then I torqued it with a 6-pound torque wrench. But doing that before with the dial indicator just was not coming out right. So unfortunately, when I barred it over, it jammed because number 3 push rod was locking up, so I had to back that all off. But taking off the valve cover and looking down the engine on number 4 and 5, but actually 5 and 6 are together instead of 3 and 4 because it's independent heads on 2 cylinders, I found number 5 exhaust push rod was bent. This thing is a pencil. Now, I've read that some people, you can sit there and straighten these carefully and you can reuse them. But if you look right there, unfortunately, there is a hairline crack there, and unfortunately, it pretty much pinched itself right there. You can see the galling. It's not straightening because the fatigue of the metal has been destroyed, and basically, I had to buy a new push rod. Now, when I bought a push rod, I figured I'd buy 2 because they're only $12 a piece off of Eastern Surplus Equipment in Pennsylvania. New old stock, perfect fit. Everything was a match. Put it in. Started timing the engine. That's when I had the dial indicator method wrong, and now I finally found the torque method, so I got all that running. I just put batteries in it, the truck, and I was cranking it over without the fuel supply on to get oil pressure. I did that 3 times. I haven't gotten oil pressure up yet, but I just don't think it's enough to do anything at the moment, so I'm gonna sit there and turn the fuel on. And we're going to see what happens, whether something breaks or it runs like it's supposed to. We'll find out, because it's been a long while since I've worked on the small cams. I used to work on the big cams, on the 250s and 290s, fuel pinchers out of Ford. But that lever right there is a mechanical shutoff for the valve. So when you go on the injector pump, well, fuel pump, it's not an injector pump, it's a fuel pump, charge pump. There's electric solenoid that you can combat start. which there's a little turn valve. You can go in and turn it, and it opens, it pushes that plunger in so you can get fuel through. And that lever there, sticking out of the dash right there, is a mechanical ball valve that shuts everything off. So I just used that to make sure that it didn't want to start while I was doing something. It looks like I'll have to probably go back on top and check everything real quick, because that did not operate properly, sadly enough. All right, what do we got here? All right, did it. So, okay, so see, this is the mechanical shutoff, which, as you can see, it didn't shut. It didn't open back up, so, and it's a little loose, so I'd probably have to replace that. But that's your 24-volt shutdown solenoid. You can get them in 12-volt, 24. This is a gear pump with a filter here, and then this is your fuel regulating pump. It is a charge pump, but it's not like an injector pump on like a 6.2 or a 6.5 or a Stanadyne or anything like that, because each cylinder has its own little pressure port. This just runs up to the front of the engine. A lot of times the Cummins are actually running from the back. I'm not sure about that. I'll probably once I get this thing running, I'll probably do a T-valve somewhere to put it in the back as well, because I guess they do it on the back instead of the front. I'm not sure why. I guess it scavenges number 6 cylinder on fuel. Don't know what that's all about. I'll have to check it out. But yep, everything's good. I marked with a paint marker on which cylinders I was doing. Everything was working right. I'm probably gonna have to grab a flashlight real quick just to check the push rods and make sure nothing was working, but I cranked it over, cranked fine. So I think I worked all the bugs out. Somebody supposedly, with what it looks like in this engine, has completely rebuilt this engine, because I don't know what catastrophic failure this engine had before the previous owner got it, but this engine definitely was rebuilt, because it has a new head on it, as I can tell from the different bolts and the different design of it. So now we're going to go through and check all the push rods real quick, because that was a good time to crank everything over. So now number 3 is right here on the injector. I kind of got that little bumped over, so I had to straighten that, so it worked all right. Or was it number 2? No, it's number 3. Everything looks good. And like I said, it didn't want to bind, pop, or bang, so it did try to start, kind of, when I tried starting it over, cranking it over to get oil pressure. It is a mechanical gauge, so I cranked it over 3 times for a good duration of time. So, I mean, that's a good amount of time. I mean, I can't really get it to work properly, so I'll start it up, and this is the first test run, and see what happens. Either something's going to break, or it's going to run just like it's supposed to. Let's see. Well, the oil pressure hasn't come up yet. Come on. There it is. I'll get 60 pounds. was when I picked it up. I may have to go in and adjust a few things, but let me see what the RPM is. I know what that sound is. Let me see what's going on over there. I had to shut it off because I think my radiator fan was kind of banging a little bit, which it was, you little bugger. It happens. It was just banging a little bit because I got to go in and put that back in. So let me put that back in now, and we'll come back to you.